My name is Lama, and I will be your moderator for our session today. I think we're just going to wait 1 minute to see if anybody else would like to join, and then we will start. Okay, so let's get started. This is our final session for this year for the Sustainable Water and Sanitation Management. We will have 3 speakers, Dr. Youssef Brouziyne, I think if I'm correct in saying that, and Professor Arwa Abdelhay, and Dr. Amgad El-Mahdi. I would like to just say if you have any questions during any of the presentations of our speakers, to just please write them down in the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the session today. Dr. Youssef, would you like to start? And would you do your presentation, or would you like us to present on your behalf?
No, I will present it. Thanks, Lama.
You're welcome.
Can you confirm if you can see my screen, please?
Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lama.
You're
And thanks to the all organizers for first thinking of this amazing, important topic in this interesting times in which we are evolving as region mainly, and also all the world in terms of water scarcity, climate change, impact on this in this valuable resource. And also thanks for inviting me to share my insights and some of the knowledge developed by my organization. So I am from IMI, International Water Management Institute, which is briefly an international research for development organization. We are headquartered in Sri Lanka, the capital, Colombo, and we work with our partners, stakeholders in Africa and Asia through regional offices and country offices. For our region, North Africa and Middle East region, we've got a regional office in Cairo, Egypt, and along colleagues in Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Jordan, we work over the region. So today I will try to share some insights about the potential of sanitation, wastewater treatments, and reuse within Nexus frameworks within the context of the region, MENA region. I will basically structure my intervention over 2 parts. So the first one will be mainly some relevant key messages from our recently closed project, Water MENA project, where Amy was leading, and it was supported by SIDA, and my colleague Javier Mateus Agasta was the project lead. We worked with many international and regional organizations in the region. And then I will share some successful examples where the sanitation, wastewater treatment, and reuse are part of Nexus in the region. So let me start from here. And we are a water organization, so we always put forward the water dimension in development whenever we are. And we all know that MENA is one of the water scarcity hotspots as well as climate change hotspots. As you can see in this graphic representation, the water resources per capita is declining. This is mainly because of the climate change impact, but also because of the increase in terms of population in the region. So here you can see the continuous increase of population in the region and what is expected or forecasted in the future. So there will be more pressure on the water system. This is one. The second, with the increase of population, obviously there will be more need and more pressure on sanitation systems as well, and there will be production of more wastewater. So you can see that wastewater currently is playing two roles. So it's a kind of issue, kind of challenge, let's say, because these quantities of wastewater need to be first collected, treated to avoid many health, environmental, and also social and economic issues. And it is a reality in many parts of the region, unfortunately. And the second role of wastewater is this water can play, and it is playing a big role in alleviating the water scarcity in the region by providing a new water, a new opportunity to use this water for socioeconomic activities, including agriculture, etc. So the wastewater production is growing, and it will keep growing in the future, definitely in different extents. So you can see here in this graphic representation that yes, wastewater is growing, but in different spaces, different speeds, depending on the four groups of countries in the region, in the MENA region, grouped here or clustered under four groups: Mashrek, Maghreb, GCC, and least developed countries. So definitely the wastewater production is very linked to the pace and the speed of development of the country, in addition to other factors, obviously. This is very important from sanitation planning, sanitation governance in general, and as well as in regard to the planning of reuse and wastewater treatment and reuse projects in the region. At IMI, International Water Management Institute, and under this the project that I mentioned, the Water MENA project, we did a kind of screening of the wastewater treatment in the region, in the MENA region. Definitely a big variability in terms of treatment capacity, quality, standards in the region. So you can see the figures here. In some situations, even data was not available, and this was one of the objectives of this project, is to help and provide data and scientific evidence to champion wastewater reuse in the region. The thing that I would like to mention here, that among these parameters of wastewater in the region, and in this project we focused on municipal wastewater. So wastewater is coming with pathogens, obviously, emerging pollutants, but also with organic matter and salt, sediments, and a lot of other resources. So with pathogens, emerging pollutants, definitely it is a challenge for the specialists in wastewater treatment, and a lot of work is under implementation in this regard. But for organic matter and the other nutrients and resources, we know that not so much is done in this regard in terms of recovery and exploitation of these resources. And we even made a kind of simulation of this potential. So just two key facts here. So according to our estimations, if we recover the nutrients from just municipal wastewater in the MENA region, we can get water and nutrients in sufficient quantities to grow 2.6 million hectares in the region. So you can see the potential of recovering these resources from just municipal wastewater. And we all know the challenges in regard to food security in the region, food sovereignty under the current circumstances. The second fact that I would like to put forward here today is the energy aspect. So if we recover carbon from municipal wastewater in the region, we will have enough energy to provide 8 million households with electricity. Again, energy is strategic. It might be even the most strategic resource in the region, and it is on top priority of all governmental agendas in the region. And here is another source and another opportunity from wastewater and sanitation sector. In rewater project, we focused also on estimating the amount of wastewater that is treated safely. So our estimation is which is in line with others' estimations, 60% of municipal water that is produced in the MENA region is treated safely. Here we're talking about the amount that is treated. So what about the other part which is not treated and used? So the in direct or indirect way. So in treated wastewater that is used is reality in the region, and bringing with it a lot of health risks as well as environmental risks that we need to highlight and to investigate. We try to shed the light on these points. And according to our estimations, as you can see here, the amount of surface irrigation water coming from wastewater and used in indirect way is much more than the directly used wastewater in the region. And this is posing a lot of questions in terms of control, laws enforcement, and monitoring of wastewater used in irrigation and also for food production. And you can see some real photos from the region, from the MENA region, where most of these risks are here and need to be managed. So the other key message that I would like to discuss with you today is that obviously wastewater is waste only if we decide to waste it. So I already mentioned the untapped potential in this water from nutrients and also energy perspective, and to understand the current situations in this regard, at IMI and alongside our partners in the region, we identified the reuse projects in MENA. So we have, and we are proud of this. We've got an updated database of reuse projects in the MENA region with details, as you can see in these screenshots. So a lot of physical and chemical and also process related details for each project in the MENA, each reuse project in the MENA region.
Dr. Youssef, you are muted. If you could just unmute.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do I need to go back to the previous slide?
Just this slide.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I was saying that quick reminder before to go forward. So we've got from municipal wastewater, we got collected wastewater or not collected. Obviously, then not collected wastewater is not treated, obviously, but for the collected one, it is treated, and then we have direct use or indirect use of treated wastewater, and then we have the lost wastewater that is formed by both collected and not collected wastewater. So in the project Rewater MENA, IMI and its partners have analyzed the trend of reuse projects in MENA, and we identified them. And in 2020, we identified 409 projects in reuse projects in MENA, and they are all identified with all the parameters that I mentioned previously, in addition to the reuse categories, as you can see here, either for forest, agriculture, irrigation, landscape, environmental, etc., etc. So this is to say that Probably we are lagging behind. Probably we can do better, but there are a lot of good examples, and that can be showcased and can be celebrated even. The fact that we have direct and indirect reuse, and specifically the direct reuse of untreated water is a big issue in the region, also in terms of control, knowledge, and data. So because we don't have precise knowledge and data about how much water, how much untreated water is reused specifically directly in any socioeconomic activity, but specifically in agricultural production. So the colleagues, ME colleagues, innovated a tool called Sewage Track, which is standing for Specially Explicit Wastewater Generation and Tracking Model. So in this model, we can make estimation about the different segments of municipal wastewater, either treated or not treated, and also the potentially they directly used or indirectly used parts of it. This is an open source tool available, and there is a publication that's cover this tool. We are currently in the process of upgrading it using artificial intelligence, and we are trying also to include other components that include other water sources, not only wastewater. So we are trying also to see how to include desalination and also fresh water in the water balance, municipal water balance, and there will be some MENA countries that will be used as a pilot for the new version of this model. As I mentioned, there are very good reuse projects for diverse purposes that were analyzed deeply in this project, Rewater MENA project. So you can type Rewater MENA on Google, it should be the first result. And the website is very rich in terms of books, articles, a lot of knowledge products, and also analysis of these successful examples. Today, probably I will pick a few of them that were captured in the Rewater MENA project, but also that were highlighted by other experts in their engagement with us under this project. And you will see the names of the authors in each slide. So this is the second part of the presentation. I have 4 or 5 more slides. So the first example of reuse in a Nexus framework is coming from Emirates. Emirates is driving water sector with many innovations. Obviously, today we will shed the light on the reuse for ecosystem conservation. So in the Wathba Wetland Reserve, which is well-known reserve, protected reserve in Emirates, with a lot of biodiversity, migratory birds, flamingos, a lot of other species living there. So this reserve is receiving in a regular way treated wastewater to preserve the lake, the wetland there, and to also sustain the biodiversity in this very important biodiversity hotspot. So they are also injecting in another place, injecting treated wastewater to recharge aquifers. So another way to sustain ecosystem, and very promising results are coming from Emirates in the both experiences. The second example is coming from Jordan, and one of the glorious wastewater treatment stations in the region, actually, Al Samra. But here I will shed the light mainly on the energy dimension in this wastewater plants. So basically, it is one of the biggest ones in the kingdom, supporting the agenda of the country, even in terms of climate change mitigation, by reducing GHG emissions and also reusing and recycling other materials than not only water, wastewater. But the most important thing in my perspective for this talk today is the energy optimization, that work that is implemented in this plant. So the Samra plant is 90% energy self-sufficient with renewable energy, basically coming from biogas production and use in addition to hydropower. So in the design and also the operation of this plant, energy was key, and it was taken into consideration in the planning, also in the enhancements work. And by the way, these guys are still innovating, so the work is not stopped here. They have many other programs to even push this limit further. And one of the ways of pushing this limit and also maintaining this great work in terms of energy sufficiency in the wastewater plants is the certifications standards that are implemented in this plant, specifically the ISO 5001, which is specifically to energy optimization and recovery and energy management in general in the industrial context. Very advanced standard. And they took this challenge and they succeeded on it, and it is helping them with definitely a lot of commitment from the highest management line of the company. The third example is coming from Morocco, obviously one of the water scarce countries in the region. The government did a lot of efforts to promote wastewater reuse in many socioeconomic activities, but the one that I will focus on it today is the use of wastewater in gulfs. Obviously, Morocco is one of the most touristical countries in the region, receiving a lot of tourists, but gulfs are one of the most important attractions in the country, in the touristical cities, Marrakesh, Agadir, Tangier, etc. So basically now, most, if not all, gulfs in Marrakesh are irrigated by treated wastewater. And this project showcasing the commitment of the government, but also the other stakeholders, which is very important here. So the government and also the sanitation company in charge of sanitation in Marrakesh, in addition to the private sector, the Gulf management companies, they all three of them, they agreed on one project, on their PPP investments, to come up with this amazing project that is first relieving the very scarce water resources in Marrakesh, very arid region, and also creating value from this water by giving it a second life. And the last example is coming from Egypt and the glorious Bahr al-Bakr drainage water plants. I believe everyone knows this station, specifically because it has a lot of Guinness World Records about capacity, about the processing, and etc. And these wastewater treatment plants is designed to irrigate 400,000 fiddans in Egypt. So here we've got the reuse and food nexus. There are other amazing projects in Egypt in the same regard, and obviously drainage water reuse is key in the water balance of the Republic of Egypt. And this is just one example, and there are a lot of programs are under implementation in Egypt in this regard. So this is my last slide, just a few take-home messages from this talk. Obviously, the region is known for water scarcity, in addition to the scarcity and the challenging situations of other resources. So treatment and reuse, resources recovery is part of the solution. And obviously wastewater is problematic from from management pollution perspective, and again treating wastewater is a part of the solution. The other thing that I would like to highlight is to recover nutrients and resources from wastewater requires something very important, a lot of things, definitely, I mean, in terms of finance, in terms of capacity, knowledge, etc., but also planning. And we see a lot of new cities and new urban centers being implemented in the MENA region, which is very important and something different in comparison to other parts of the world. And we always recommend to take this into consideration in urban planning while putting in place the sanitation program and waste collection in general, including wastewater. So there will be a big potential to take this into consideration in order to be able to recover and reuse the resources afterward. And obviously, but there are other challenges, as I said, regarding the finance and regarding the business model of treatments, wastewater treatments, and also reuse. In addition to other barriers, that's not necessarily the objective of today's discussion, like cultural barriers and social acceptance, etc. There are lots of challenges, obviously, but these good examples that I highlighted today, in addition to others in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Palestine, Iraq, and obviously in other GCC countries. So a lot of good examples that can be taken as example to drive this sector forward. And this is what I'm saying here. So the good examples are there, need to be studied further, and need to be taken as model to advance the reuse, wastewater reuse based Nexus in MENA. The last thing that I would like to say is, as I said, in the Rewater MENA project's website, you will have access to a lot of information, data. They are public, but I would like to highlight mainly this book, which is kind of a flagship product from this project. It's a source book covering institutional, social, gender related aspects of wastewater and reuse, economics and business models, development, environmental aspects, etc. So it's one-stop shop for wastewater treatments and reuse in MENA. And thank you again, and I will be very happy to take any questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Youssef, for sharing all of these projects with us on wastewater use and the MENA region. And now I would like to ask everybody, if you have any questions, to please share them in the chat, and then we will answer them in our Q&A session at the end. Professor Arwa? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, Lama, I was muted. I was talking to you while my mic is muted. Yeah,
No, that's fine. Professor Arwa Abdelhay is from the German Jordanian University, and she will be sharing with us some of the use of treated gray water for irrigation on a farm level. Would you like us to share your...
maybe I will do that, Lama, because I have updated few things. So let me share just my screen. Okay. Can you see the slides right now?
Yes.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Lema, for inviting me to deliver this presentation in this webinar. I would like also to extend thanks for my student who is joining GIZ, Muad al-Bakkar. So thank you for connecting me with GIZ, and I'm really happy to see like all my previous students joining different organizations. So thank you so much once again. Actually, in this presentation, I will be talking about a general umbrella, so the general concept of why do we need to link sanitation to the WIF Nexus framework and why it's important specifically in the WANA region. And then I will complete the presentation by sharing with you a case study or a project that has been, sorry, maybe I have to switch on my camera, that has been implemented in Jordan in 4 different sites, and it was funded actually by World Vision, and it was about collecting gray water at the farm level and then treating that afterward to be reused for irrigation purposes. And then I will reflect on how this case study is giving an example on how to integrate sanitation as a key element into the WIF Nexus framework. So the points that I will be touching on through my presentation, first of all, I would like to shed light on why do we need to link sanitation to the Nexus framework and what are the potential benefits of doing so. And then I will move to highlighting or shedding light also on the interconnections and interdependencies among the different elements, or components of the WIF Nexus, which are usually taken into consideration. So here specifically, I'm talking about water, energy, food elements, but how to integrate and how to consider sanitation as a component that would contribute positively to the WIF Nexus framework. And finally, I will give, of course, I will not have the time to give like a comprehensive presentation about the project, but I will be just touching on how the project addressed several challenges, specifically in the rural context, and what are the offered solutions in from a Wi-Fi Nexus lens, I would say. So the first question that would come to mind is why it's important to link sanitation to the Wi-Fi Nexus framework. And here I mentioned some key points to answer this question. I do believe that sanitation needs to be emphasized as a component, and I think this was also a key message that has been delivered to the last UN Water Conference, because sanitation usually, when we deal with the WIF Nexus, or what's called right now also Wi-Fi Nexus, if we add the ecosystem as a component to the Nexus or to the framework, sanitation usually is overlooked as a component. So it means that it is ignored when we design the framework to address several challenges in the different context or in the different settings. Sanitation is under prioritized as a component, although it can offer different potential solutions to, for example, a complex situation such as the one in Jordan. So if we consider the contribution of the sanitation into the Wi-Fi Nexus framework, I think the first benefit would be, as I mentioned, or as it's mentioned in this slide, is to understand the implicit as well as the explicit interlinkages between the sanitation element and the other key components of the WIF Nexus. And this would lead to break down the silos, which means that we will not deal with the different elements, the water, the energy, and the food, even climate, ecosystem, as separate elements, but it would be dealt with rather as, as interlinked, interrelated components that one would impact the other. And this, as it's mentioned here, would let us shift from the fragmented management into an integrated way to deal with the different sectors and to adopt a holistic approach. So here, it's just a very simple representation on how the different elements of the WIF nexus are interrelated. We know all, and I think I do believe that it's quite obvious for every one of us that the WIF nexus is aiming into managing and alleviating the conflicts and reducing the trade-offs between the different elements of the WIF nexus. But at the same time, we need also to leverage synergies between these components. So that's why in this graphical, I would say, representation, I tried just to shed light on the interlinkages between the different resources that would open the door or would be an entry point for the contribution of the sanitation system. So if you see any components that are missing, please be aware that this is just a representation of the points that are related or have connections with the wastewater management system. So for example, if we know that among the key points that I would stress on, and that was among the drivers for our project or case study with World Vision, is that first of all, water is a big consumer of energy as a sector. And I'll be talking about Jordan, for example. We are consuming about 15% of the energy just to support the water sector. It could be used, of course, the energy could be used for the conveyance system, the distribution system, the treatment. And that's why we need kind of energy efficient systems. And that's why the solar energy here, as you can see in the arrows, is contributing positively to the energy sector, because it is reducing this big dependence or huge reliance on the fossil fuels. And since energy is highly needed and there is a high demand of energy for treatment purposes, that's why I would highlight here that instead of treating like the wastewater in a centralized way, and I think Dr. Youssef mentioned a Samra, Khirbet al-Samra treatment plant in Jordan, which is a big treatment plant receiving maybe 60% of the wastewater of the country, and it's treated in a centralized way. It is a well-advanced treatment plant, which is very good, which is brilliant, but at the same time, the transportation cost is very high. And that's why if we manage properly the wastewater in the country by promoting treatment on site, and here I would highlight or bring into the discussion the decentralization point, this reuse, would also positively contribute to the water sector by reducing the pressure on the water fresh resources. So water security can be ensured by a proper management of wastewater, and it would also support the water sector, because the land crop allocation is high, which means the agriculture sector is also a big consumer of water. And that's why if we support the water budget of the country by having a proper wastewater management, which is by promoting the reuse for irrigation purposes, this also would lead to a positive contribution in terms of food security. This would support the food sector. I would like to second what Dr. Youssef previously mentioned about nutrient recovery. The wastewater, and Jordan, and I think Minty shared with you the report of GIZ, but and the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, of course. We would look right now, we need to look at wastewater as a major asset rather than a problem. Nutrient recovery is a plus for or an additional value for managing the wastewater, because we can recover nutrients for wastewater that would also support and contribute positively once again into the food sector and pave the way toward the food security. Of course, I don't need to mention just quickly that treating the wastewater for reuse purposes would also help in mitigating climate change consequences on the country, especially if we talk about the, that the country is subjected to drought, severe drought events in the recent years. that's why here a point that I would like to underline, that the WIF nexus, connecting the sanitation to the WIF nexus, as I mentioned earlier, would support the different sectors within the WIF nexus framework. But at the same time, we have also to bring into the discussion one key point, which is context-based, which means that linking to sanitation, we don't have a solution of linking sanitation to the WIF nexus framework that would fit everywhere. So we have to have, we need to have context-based solutions. In rural areas, which is the settings where our project was implemented, in rural areas, the problem is that if we consider the components of the WIF nexus, the water, energy, and food, originally the resources are limited, which means in rural settings, energy is limited, water is limited. So in order to make these resources available and to make the WIF nexus implementable in this special settings, which is the rural areas, we need to adopt this holistic approach or integrated management, which means that we have to link the sanitation, we have to consider the sanitation, we have to prioritize wastewater management, and to have this as a key element into the WIF nexus framework, because it would offer potentially several solutions to such specific or special context. And that's why this would transform the rural areas or the rural livelihoods into resilient systems. And that's why the idea of our project was on how to use the Nexus approach, or how to link the Nexus approach to the reclaimed water reuse for smart agriculture in rural areas. And once again, decentralization is a key element in our project that we want also to highlight, and hopefully Jordan will be moving, like having concrete steps toward decentralization. Yeah, so this project about using and collecting treated gray water at farm level to be reused for irrigation, and I will be talking about this, so specifically to irrigate olive trees. This is an example on how to make the WIF nexus and this linkage between the framework and the sanitation implementable on ground. So this project, as I mentioned earlier, it was funded by World Vision, and by the way, it was managed and fully supervised by a master's student, my master's student, Sohaib Abu Nasser, who worked with World Vision, who was working with World Vision by that time, and he managed the whole project, and we were like, as German Jordanian University, supporting and supervising the technical part of this project. Okay, before going into the details of the project, quickly, just key facts that I think are quite obvious for every one of us, but just to stress on some key points that were drivers to our to this project. First of all, Jordan is not only, I know that we are all talking about the acute scarcity of water in Jordan, but I want here to underline or one point, which is we are not only exposed or subjected to periodic droughts. The problem is also that in terms of the spatial distribution of the rainfall, it's uneven over the whole country. So, for example, 72% of the country is receiving less than 100 milliliters. The situation is quite complex because on the top of that, we have this challenge of energy, because the country is importing more than, not even 95, but it's even now 98% of our energy is imported. And the point of the related to the WIF nexus is that the water sector is consuming about 15% of the energy. There is a clear shift toward renewable energy in Jordan, and Dr. Youssef mentioned that 90% of the Khirbat al-Samra treatment plant is run or operated by, supported by renewable energy, which is quite good. But the thing is how to expand this to the decentralized systems. Okay, so water scarcity in Jordan, we know that what is officially announced, and people from, if we have people from the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, they can correct me if I am mistaken, but I would say that the share per capita is less than 100 cubic meters per year. The water poverty line is 500 cubic meters. The water scarcity is 1,000, and we have different categories. So which means that what I want, the message that I want to convey is it's even that we are way far from even the absolute scarcity. So what's available in terms of availability of water resources, what's available, and by the way, this is the statistics or the figures from 2021, if I am not mistaken. So what's available is 564 million cubic meters, okay? And the deficit is 344, and we are covering this deficit by an over-abstraction of groundwater beyond the safe yield, which of course has its negative implications, and I will not be talking about this because it's not within the scope of our presentation. But the point that I want to highlight here is that the treated wastewater is contributing by 136 million cubic meter into the water budget of Jordan. Now, which means that potentially the treated wastewater can play a role in minimizing or in like shrinking this deficit, which is existing right now in the water demand. Okay, where are the areas of implementation of this decentralized treatment system in 4 different sites. 2 of them are in the north of the country, as you can see here. One is in the center, in the capital, and one is just in an area where we can reflect like the low precipitation rate. And the sites were distributed in a way that we take into consideration this uneven spatial distribution of rainfall. Okay, what was the system? I will not go into the technical details, of course, but just simply to give you an idea what was the what was implemented in farms. So the domestic wastewater was collected in the 4 farms. By the way, they are, I think, now they are extended to more than 4. But anyway, the domestic wastewater was collected at the farm level. Then we had a separation system where the black wastewater is separated from the gray wastewater. So the sanitation component is there. And then we used vertical flow constructed wetlands, which is a robust system. It doesn't need as you can see here, the way it is designed, it doesn't need large space, so the space requirements are not really huge, and it is powered by solar panels, which means also the energy or this cost-effective, energy-efficient systems are adopted here. And then the water is treated, and I will show you a sample of the results because we monitored 24 parameters in terms of water quality, and all of them complied with the Jordanian standards for irrigation. Of course, I'm talking about the restricted irrigation. And then it was reused for irrigation on site, okay, for olive trees. So we touched on, I think the food security element is quite obvious, and the sequence of this project. The system, in terms of technical system, as you can see, it's very simple. So we have a separation system, and then it's a sedimentation tank, and then we have the vertical flow constructed wetlands that were used in order to ensure the biological treatment of the gray water, at the same time physical. And those the people having expertise in wastewater, they know that this is not quite expensive system to be implemented. And finally, the treated wastewater was dripped to the farms, as you can see, to irrigate olive trees. Okay. Just a simple, as I mentioned earlier, we monitored or we measured 24 parameters just to make sure that they are matching with the limits set by the Jordanian standards. One of them is the biological oxygen demand. And as you can see, if you go to the, for example, the category relevant here, you can see that it is complying with two categories, the second one here and the third one, and the BOD is way below the limits set by the Jordanian standards. Of course, if you want, the other parameters are also complying with the standards. Just in terms of cost analysis, because I mentioned that it's cost effective and we are talking about farms, so we have to make sure that it's affordable for farmers. This is just a breakdown of the cost, but please keep in mind that the World Vision used a contractor in order to build the system and to install the system. However, the idea was in the future is to train the farmers to be able to not only to maintain the system, but at the same time to install the system by their own. And the payback period, you see the total, even with having the contractor, is 1,400 around Jordanian dinars. But the idea is to implement the systems with just around 900 Jordanian dinars. And the payback period is very, very short. We're talking about 2-3 years if we go without contractor. Now, linking that back to the WIF Nexus, we talked about a system, a small one. Yes, it's a decentralized one where the wastewater was managed on site. Okay, but the system is reflecting an example of bridging all the Wi-Fi Nexus elements, where we are talking about water, about sanitation, about food security, and about energy. And that's why the system, this system is a multi-benefit system where you can, for example, enhance the water situation, because you are like reducing the pressure on fresh resources. You are offering a non-conventional source of water, which needs to be promoted. And everyone now is talking about promoting the non-conventional water sources. And I know that GIZ organized an event in the World Water Week in Stockholm, where the title was quite good for me. Every single brown drop counts, and this is true. Every single brown drop counts here, because we can support the agriculture sector with treated wastewater and saving our fresh resources, which means that in terms of food security, this would open the door for Jordan in the future also to start thinking about irrigating even in water intensive crops, which is not, I would say maybe, which is not the case for the time being. Also, transportation cost will be minimized. The load on the wastewater treatment plants will be less. The risk of pollution of groundwater will be as well minimal. And also, adopting this energy efficient innovative technologies or the smart agriculture will help the country into running and supporting the water sector without having an extra cost, or without being like so much dependent on fossil fuel. And of course, it would enhance the production in the agricultural sector. This is just an invitation for you. If you want to have further insight into the project with all the details, whether it's technical details or the economic analysis and the feasibility of the system, I would like to invite you to check these two publications, which were one of the outcomes of the project, where you can find all technical information, as well as this economic and feasibility analysis. And Having said that, I will come. I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Feel free, please, to contact me on this email if you want to have any further information or discussion about the topic. And I am more than happy to receive any questions that you might have. Thank you so much, and over back to you, Lema.
Thank you, Professor Arwa, for that on the water, energy, and food nexus and the case study level on a Jordanian level. Next, we have Dr. Amgad El-Mahdi, and he is from the Green Climate Foundation. He will talk about the role in climate, the GCF role in climate and water finance nexus. Dr. Amgad, would you like us to present, or would you like to present your presentation?
I have both the slides through. Can you confirm you can see the slides?
Yes, we can see it, and we can hear and see you very well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Lema. And good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thanks for having me to talk to you in that webinar about climate and water finance nexus. And also what I would like to really cover is why we really need a climate finance first, and then what could be really the existing windows for climate finance that can actually help the region, and what is actually the strategy for Green Climate Fund as the largest multilateral fund, and also serving the Paris Agreement under UNFCCC. What could be really the strategy for Nexus in terms of water, food, energy, and ecosystem? So taking that in mind, and let's go through why we really need finance. I think it's first of all, we all admit the climate crisis that coming from increasing temperature, and all scenarios are really expecting the temperature will be increased, and we try to maintain 1.5 Paris Agreement goal. However, we are really off track of that. And that also coming in terms of what we really need to do. And that really in terms of reducing the emissions, and reducing the emissions will reflect in achieving the target of the temperature. So you can see on the figure on your right on the screen here, you can see with the current trend, we are expecting 3.5 degree increasing. But if we really are able to do the pathways for paradigm shifting to change the way we manage our resources and also tackle the climate change, we can actually looking forward to meet the target of 1.5. And if we just continue with the historical record before climate finance started in 2015, that would end up by 2100 years, that will be by increasing 5 degrees. So I think it's again what climate change means here and what is that impact, and that's in terms of increasing temperature reflecting and the fluctuation or extreme precipitations, fluctuation between drought and flood, but also the increase in the sea level rise. And we can see the water sector as a medium where you can see the impact of climate change, but also where you can start really the mitigations. And if we look at the assessment of the our planetary boundary, and if you can see the green cycle and the yellow, the orange cycle, so you will see when you see the orange cycle, that means for that particular category, we actually have become outside the safe zone. And recently in that analysis by UK, it actually show even the green water, which is really represented the rainfall, soil moisture, evaporation. It's actually, it also passed the safe zone. So again, we see climate change passing safe zone, the fresh water, we see the biogeochemical flow, and also the land system as well. So again, that is quite alarming for a bold action that actually require right now, where we can actually work on the nexus in terms of water, land use, biodiversity, and climate. So climate security, it doesn't come by itself. It's actually require water security. It require ecosystem, food security, and energy security. And I see the water sector as really the connector. So it's the one of the sector that really connect all other sectors, including climate. But it's a show us the opportunity where we can actually start the actions as well in interconnection with other sectors and be able to transform the lives of the communities, but also increase the resilience and also mitigate our emissions as well. So how much do we need finance? These just figures for the water sector, but what I wanted to highlight from all this, it's actually like we have only 6 years now to really achieve our target by 2030. And all recent reports, it actually show us the rate of spending to be able to achieve our SDGs, where we are really lacking behind the target on SDGs. It really require, in some cases like WASH, it's required to be 4 times than we currently spend. If we look at the infrastructure, it's required to be 3 times that we currently spend. So all those numbers really alarming. And today we actually having the replenishment of GCF for the next 4 years. And I can see the commitments from the countries also reflecting on this by most of the countries actually increasing their commitments and contribution to GCF. However, the question, it's not really sometimes the amount of finance as well. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight as well, because we keep talking about lacking of finance, but sometimes it's the quality of the finance that actually exists, or the quality of that money that actually exists. The figure in front of you here, it shows the landscape of all financial institutions within one country that reflects the international, the national, the different donors, the international financial institutions, even the subnationals or national banks for the Nexus sector, including even the different utilities and other source of finance that can actually support the sectors, including even the private sector. So it's not just the quantity of the finance, but it's also the quality of the finance. The second message I wanted to highlight here, it's also like the level of spending or the level of disbursement. So we have like, we can see a lot of money being committed for projects that really serve the Paris Agreement or serve the Nexus sectors. However, when we see the scale of implementations or the level of implementations, we are very behind, and that's very clear in the SDGs. And that's coming in terms of many factors. It could be the capacity of the country, could be the capacity of the entity, it could be the capacity of the community. So again, how we can actually shift that and improve the level of disbursement, not just the level of commitment for the finance, but also the level of disbursement that really link to the level of implementations as well. So if we look at the landscape again in terms of like the risk that can be taken by different donor, but also the ticket size or the scale of finance that can be provided for one single project. And I wanted to highlight here the role for GCF as a start, because for us, as we are positioned here in the middle of the figure here, you can see actually we are a very risk appetite. So we actually are able to take a lot of risk and de-risk the investment for other donor investor, including the private sector. But we are also dealing with all financial instruments that already existing in the market that guarantee, as we know to everyone, but also grants, loans, and even seed support, where we actually support the development of the project. And I will reflect on this later on. So this actually positioning us in a way like how we can actually use our risk and also our scale of finance to be able really to create the market for Nexus or for the water sector or for any other sector that we are interested in. But of course, we know there are many barriers to finance projects. And what you see now on the screen here, it's on your left side, it's really like a generic barriers for project finance. This in terms of like the lack of the integration, in terms of the development planning and capacity, where in many times reflecting in maladaptation as well, but also the limited investment in terms of the innovation, in terms of the practice or aspect. And if you look at farmer practice or agriculture technology, so we have heard from Arwa about like the wastewater reuse and how we can treat it as a source or as an asset rather than really as a waste, but also the inadequate public and private finance and how we establish the partnership between public and private, that the level of awareness of the emissions as well, how we can develop Nexus practice that can actually reduce that emissions using the technologies or ICT solutions as well. And of course, there is a culture and behavior barriers as well to access or finance project. If I just focus on the water sector in the right side of the screen here, you will see really like water is a public good. So it has to be maintained as a public good. So there is an underpricing for the water. Even the water service by itself, it's also underpriced. So that results really in a very low cost recovery for the service that's being provided. Most of the projects are really capital intensive, so it requires a lot of upfront investment that it's not available and no one willing to pay for that cost. And this where we can see climate finance can help. Even the business model, like that in terms of operational and maintenance, we have seen from practice like many development projects funded by donors. Once the project has stopped, we see like the outcomes or the infrastructure are not well maintained because of there is no one financing that. So how we can come with the right design to design the project and ensure the business model are really quite correct. So at GCF as a Green Climate Fund that really established by UNFCCC for Climate Change Convention, and we are mandated to serve the Paris Agreement. So we are really working across all sectors for adaptation and mitigations. And we have a very clear 6 investment criteria where we really assess any project, a Nexus project or even a sector silo-based project as well. So we use those 6 investment criteria: impact, which is really what is the impact of this project in terms of mitigation, like the tons of CO2 that can be reduced, for example, but also adaptation in terms of number of beneficiaries, for example, that will become more resilient. Paradigm shifting, it's talking about like the innovation in the solution, the opportunity to be scaled up, the opportunity to be replicated. The sustainable development criteria, looking at what is actually the core benefits beyond the project, like what is the benefits for the economic, the social, the environment, and so on. The recipient's needs, and this about the scale of vulnerability of the country, because we are serving the countries. And the vulnerability here, it's not just vulnerability in resources, but also vulnerability in the finance as well, in terms of their level of debt, for example. And then the country ownership. So how this project, it's really aligned with the country strategy and country plan, including NAP and so on. And then last one, which is really the efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency in terms of like cost benefit analysis. And this in terms of like, is the project is bankable? Is the project is affordable? Effectiveness, has the project actually been designed based on the best practice? So how we use this to drive the change and make a paradigm shifting in the projects that we are finance. So we have like a 4 principle for us, and the first one is really transformational planning, and that means really how we integrate the climate development or climate rationale in all policies, in all plans, in all actions within the country and within the region. The second one, it's really how we catalyze the innovation. And this is about really technology transfer, technology development, how we establish the enabling environment, not just for institutional, but even for the investment. So this coming to the third principle for us here, mobilizing the finance. And this how we scale up the finance, how we use our finance to leverage other finance, how we take the risk or de-risk the investment. So we actually encourage more money, because we can't actually meet the SDGs with the public finance. So we have to mobilize other sources of finance. And those mainly are the private sector. And the private sector to invest, they really need to de-risk their investment or ensure their investment coming with a return. So that's the role of the climate finance. And the coalition and knowledge as the fourth principle. And this about how we create that knowledge sharing community of practice, how we harmonize the process, the tools, exchange lesson learned, and so on. So in terms of different windows or how you can really access the money from GCF. So as I mentioned, like we work across all financial instruments, concessional loan, and I wanted to highlight this. What does it mean, concessional loan? The loan we provide is a very concessional comparing to the market. So if it's a public entity that really requesting funding for the project, they can actually get loan for 0.25% an interest rate, and their payback period, so they can actually pay the loan over 40 years and also have a grace period of 10 years. If it's a private entity, they can actually requesting loan for 0.75%. And this, they can pay the loan back to up to 20 years and also have a grace period of 5 years. That's a very competitive and very concessional. But of course, we provide grants, we provide equity, we provide guarantees, and so on. So how you can really access that finance from GCF? So as we are serving the countries, and all the money need to go through our accredited entity to the countries. So we have a national adaptation plan, which each country can apply for 3 million to develop their national adaptation plan. And in that plan, they really define their key sectors, the priority, and also defining some gaps as well. And when they define that gap, they can move to the next stage and request a country readiness support. And that country readiness support, it's actually come, sorry, the country readiness support come with like 1 million per country per year. So each year they can request up to 1 million, up to 3 years. And that money used actually to fill the gap, to build the capacity within the country, to design a concept node. So to start to move from a sector priority to an early idea of the project to actually to respond to that priority. Once they have that initial idea, they can actually putting a concept node for us, and they're requesting a support to develop the concept node to a full proposal. So, and that's also a unique mechanism that GCF actually doing, where we actually paying up to 1.5 million to develop your project, to develop the full proposal. So to move from a concept node to a full proposal stage. And of course, in terms of project size, so we have macro project that's really up to 10 million. We have a small project between 10 to 50 million. And we have a medium project between 50 to 250. And then a large or a program level that actually come at 250 million and above. But of course, money is not just enough. So we actually have collected a feedback from many partners in terms of like how I can actually design a project, how I can submit my full proposal to GCF. So I encourage you really to visit the project design guidelines that actually we have developed for the water and also reflecting on the Nexus as well. And this is a very structured framework. I will share the link after the presentation in the chat. So, and that actually give you, like, take you a step by step in terms of how you design your project, the level of scoping, the consultation, the analysis, and for each step we define what type of analysis you really need to do, what type of method you really need to use, and in terms of the output of that analysis or methods, where you actually fit that into our concept note or a full proposal. And we also, it's not just about a guideline or just like a reading guidelines. We actually also apply that guidelines for like 4 cases, IWRM, which again, coming as across sectors, but also climate resilience WASH as been highlighted by Joseph and Arwa in terms of water reuse. So you can see the whole sanitation cycle, drought management, where you look at the agriculture, and flood management, where you look at flood mitigations as well. So I wanted to reflect quickly on strategy before I conclude. So we have released the water security strategy, and for each sector we have in GCF, so we work across 10 sectors. For each sector, we have now a strategy that communicates clearly, like where GCF looking to invest, and where it's not about location, because we are serving all the developing countries and a small island, so very much everywhere in the world. But it's where here it's about like the thematic area under each sector, what we really need to see happening as a paradigm shifting in the sector. So we have defined like two pathways for the paradigm shifting. The first one for focus on mitigation aspects, so reducing emissions. And this about really enhance water conservation, water efficiency, and water reuse, as we have heard from the former speakers. And this, what type of project you can actually do under this, for example, you can do demand management project. And this where you can actually reducing energies or emissions from treating less water by looking at alternative water supply, or even reducing the non-revenue water, or looking at water saving measures as well that can be actually promoted, or even water reuse for agriculture, as we have seen in Samra station in Jordan. But also how you look at the decentralized model as well for large scale water use, as Hammam station in Egypt as well, that has been highlighted by Joseph, or even management aquifer recharge, or a resource recovery project where you take the whole cycle for the wastewater for the opportunity of biogas and so on. In terms of adaptation, where you really look at strengthening the integrated water resource management, preserve the resources, enhance the resilience, that's where you can actually look at the ecosystem-based approach. Again, multi-sector, where you look at flood mitigation, drought management, improving water quality, but also you can look at alternative water sources, and of course, the whole aspect of water planning, water governance, and so on. So I wanted to put this into like the four principles, if you still remember them: the transformational planning, catalyzing innovation, mobilizing finance, and coalition and knowledge. And if you look at on your left side here, the two pathways, the enhanced water conservation for mitigation and integrated water resource management for adaptation. You will see here, we have defining different elements that you really need to bring into the project that really serve those elements. So for example, if you look at transformational planning, so how you design low emission climate resilience investment to maximize the long-term water benefits, for example, how you strengthen the water security within the NDCs or NAPT. If you look at catalyzing climate innovations here, and this is coming to the solutions. So how you look at the climate smart water and agriculture digital solutions, for example, how you promote treating water as a new asset class for sanitation and water reuse. We have heard Arwa talking about water reuse and sanitation and whole cycle. And this is where we have actually developed the concept of treating water as a new asset class, where we define water as an asset. And once you define it as an asset, you can bring the financial elements. You can also looking at the revenue streams and so on. The same for the security sector as well. So we have a food security guide as well that actually show again what is really the paradigm shift pathways. So in the food security, you really need to promote the resilience agroecology. And this, if you look at the in terms of the solution, so you're looking at really how you bring the climate responsive technologies and service and program, how you promote landscape level for natural resource management. But also, if you look at the second pathways to facilitate really climate informed advisory and risk management service. And this about the early warning service, how you take this to the agricultural sector, how you leverage the emerging digital technologies that really can support reaching at the scale and inform decisions on farm, how you use the ICT technologies and so on.
Dr. Amgad, I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, sure. No. I'm going to finish.
So we can have 5 minutes left for the questions.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So I wanted to conclude by really how to improve the financing, and that require really to maximize the value of the existing assets across sectors. So we really take the Nexus sector perspective, but also to look at the revenue stream that really align with the Paris Agreement, with the SDG and SDGs as well, and also the opportunity of collaboration on Nexus investment and encourage different donors. So finally is about really bring the government investment in a coordination way, coordinate between donors and banks, coordinate again between fund across sectors. So it's more about coordination that actually require to be able to mobilize more finance. Thanks if I took more time, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you. Back to you, Lama.
Thank you very much for that very valuable input. I would like to ask anybody if we have any questions. And we actually do have one in the chat. Mohammed, would you like to ask your question, or would you like me to read it?
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Doctor, for your insightful presentation. I just have a question regarding the financial criteria you have discussed. I just have an inquiry regarding if you employed blended finance in your strategy by integrating government donors and the private sector, getting percentage from each sector to ensure guarantee sustainable fundings and ensure that the project's viability throughout its various stages, from planning to operation and maintenance. Since most of the projects now, if it's implemented, they are facing lack of funds or lack of finance in its operation and maintenance. Thanks.
Yeah, so I can answer that, Lama. So I think it's yes, we are operating through blended finance, and blended finance for us, again, as I mentioned, we are working across all the financial instruments. So when we start to structure the blended finance, we're looking for each activity that you proposed in your project. And we work about what is the right financial instrument for that particular activity. And at the end, we come with a very structured blended finance project that actually serve your needs. So for example, if one activity that actually generating income, so the grant instrument, it's not the right one, for that right activity. But if there is an activity, for example, like for capacity building or de-risk and investment, that actually require grant upfront to make it happen. So again, based on the activity, we work with you to design the right blended finance structure for the project to ensure really, as I mentioned, project is bankable, but also it's affordable as well, because we don't need to end up again by high water tariff, for example, or high energy tariff, or higher food cost, where it actually become not affordable by communities. So again, we use our finance to ensure the project can be financed, but also with minimum impact on the community to be able to access whatever the outputs of that project. I hope that answers your question.
Great. This is really helpful. Thank you.
We have another question. Mr. Abri. Would you like to ask your question, or should I read it? Okay, I'll read the question. Is there a possibility to get fund which is related to environmental pollution and health that are related to climate change?
The short answer is yes, of course, because as I mentioned, we work across all sectors. So including the environment ecosystem. So you can actually looking at, if you're looking for water quality, natural resource management, health system, how you turn the health sector more resilient, for example, or even the education sector more resilient. All those type of projects can be funded by GCF.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Dr. Youssef has already answered some questions in the chat, but if there's anything else, we have 2 more minutes.
I have shared here in the chat, like the first link, it's for the strategy. And then the following 2 links, one for project design guidelines, how you go step by step to design your project. And then the last one, the application of that guidelines. I hope that will be helpful for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I would like to thank all 3 of our speakers, Dr. Youssef from the International Water Management Institute, Professor Arwa from the Jordanian University, and Dr. Amgad from the Green Climate Foundation. Thank you very much to all of our speakers and for their valuable input. I would also like to say that this is our last webinar of the series for this year, and we would love it, and we will try to organize something similar in the future. Thank you to all of our speakers today and for this whole series, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.